All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our August Insights webinar. I'm just watching all of the people joining and where everybody's joining from. So thank you very much for being with us. Um, in our series of Insight webinars this year, we've been focusing on what we call the Great Place to Work effect. And this session is really designed as a conversation with some HR and leadership professionals to share practical learnings that you can implement right away. Um, my name is Ann Cizak. I am a senior consultant here at Great Place to Work, certified human resources leader here in Ontario, and I'm going to be the host for today. So at Great Place to Work, our mission is to build a better world by helping organizations become great places to work for all. And we do that by providing tools to assess the experience of your employees and resources to act on that data. So it's to help organizations protect what's going well and look for those areas of opportunity to improve on. And we believe that trust is the heart of an exceptional workplace. Before we start today with our panelists, just a couple things to note. If you do have any questions, we will get to them at the end. Please use the Q&A that's in the Zoom platform. And Merv on our team is in the back end, and she'll be helping with any technical challenges today. So thank you, Merv, for being here. So as I said, our theme for our Insights webinars this year is the Great Place to Work effect. And this is the idea that great leaders build trust, trust shapes culture, and culture drives performance. So every month we are focusing on a specific, what we call high trust leader behavior. Today we're going to focus on thanking, and specifically employee recognition on a budget. So some low cost ways to improve engagement. And just to anchor us in the Great Place to Work effect and those high trust leader behaviors, I'm just going to share some slides. So bear with me for a second while I do that. There we go. Okay. So this is what we call the Great Place to Work effect. As you can see here, it's a very really simplified process, if you will, where great starts with leadership. Some recent research from Gallup, it says that it might not even be all that recent, but 70% of an employee's experience is based on leadership. And we're not just talking about their individual leader, like we're talking about organizational leadership, certainly maybe more influenced by individual leaders, but leadership in the organization that influences 70% of an employee's experience. So it's fairly significant. Why? Why is it significant? Because leaders shape that experience, that day-to-day experience. That's what employees are learning from. And why is experience important? Experience shapes culture. Anybody who's heard me before has heard me say that I look at culture as an outcome of the behaviors that we reward, encourage, ignore. It's how things get done around here. It's the norms and traditions in our organizations. And why is culture important? Why should we be intentional about culture? It's because culture drives performance. So in any organization, you have your own dashboard, probably you have performance metrics that your organization is tracking every month and reporting on, because that's important for you. So I'll just go to this next slide. This just really builds out this Great Place to Work effect, where I talked about the 9 high trust leader behaviors. Again, we've been focusing on them this year. And today we're going to be talking about thanking. The others are here. We have some other webinars that you can go back and watch. And those 9 high trust leader behaviors, again, you can see listening, speaking, inspiring, caring, developing, thanking, sharing, celebrating, and hiring. And then, so those leadership behaviors, they impact the experience that employees are having. And that experience is around trusting the people that we work for, taking pride in the work that we do, and enjoying the people that we work with. And then also really important is that, is this a consistent experience for everybody, right? I talked about, great place to work for all. So we're looking for organizations to provide a consistently good experience. And then that experience contributes to culture. Some elements of culture around collaboration, innovation, agility, opportunity, belonging, well-being. You could ask anybody in your organization to describe your culture right now, and you will get probably a lot of different answers. And that's okay. It's very personalized, but organizations can kind of look at that and go, okay, is that the culture we're looking for, or maybe we need to make some tweaks. And then again, how does culture impact performance? And you can see here, these are just some examples of some performance metrics that organizations might track. So again, really going back to what is that leader experience, leader behavior, and what is that impact on experience? And today we're going to be talking about those leadership behaviors, excuse me, around thanking and appreciation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And we are going to get back into our content. and our panelists, because I know those are the people that you're here to see, not me. So let's meet those two individuals who are going to be sharing with us today. So Maria Sial is Manager of Marketing and Communications at Southwire Canada. And Southwire is North America's leading wire and cable company, providing solutions including building wire and cable, metal-clad cable, utility products, portable and electronic cord products, OEM wire products, electrical products, and engineered solutions and field support services. So a lot of interesting information going to come out from Maria today. Certainly lots of different employees working in that organization. So we'll hear from you. And then also joining us is Kusta Laird. She is the Director of People and Culture at HD Mutual Insurance Company. And they are a property and casualty insurance company operating in Southwest Ontario. And they are backed by over 160 years of dedicated service and expertise. I was fascinated by that stat when I went to your website, Kusta, just that longevity of the organization and all the different iterations. So really excited to have you both with us today. You've lived this and you're going to talk us through what your organizations are doing. Now, before we get into hearing from our panelists, I'd like to engage everybody who's joined us today, and we're going to do a poll. So I'm just going to ask Merv on the back end to bring that up. And the question is, when budgets are tight, what recognition practice do you think has the biggest impact on employees? So you can see there are 5 choices here. You can pick one. So it's a timely, specific thank you from a leader, peer-to-peer appreciation, public recognition tied to company values, flexibility, time, or support that shows care, or opportunities for growth or visibility. So if you had to just pick one of these, when budgets are tight, what do you think, which recognition practice do you think has the biggest impact on employees? So we'll just give you that a minute or two, and we'll just see what folks think. Again, it's just one choice. There may be a number that you think would be relevant, but we're just asking for one. Okay, so Merv, if I can get you to close that. And let's see those responses. Okay, so when budgets are tight, what recognition practice do you think has the biggest impact on employees? The number one was a timely, specific thank you from a leader. Leadership experience, right? We were just talking about how important leaders are to the employee experience. The second one is around flexibility, time, or support that shows care. Certainly probably directed at leadership as well. And then third was public recognition tied to company values, and then opportunities for growth or visibility. And then at the last one was peer-to-peer appreciation, but very, very high on timely, specific thank you from a leader. So that's awesome. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that. All right. Now, before I ask my first question, Kusta and Maria, again, thank you so much for being here today. I like to start off our Insights webinars just understanding from you, when it comes to the work that you're doing, what are you hearing from employees? What's going on in your workplace? What are you hearing from people? And not necessarily related to recognition, but just in general. Kusta, I'll start with you. What's your day-to-day like? What are you hearing?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me, Anne. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk on a subject that is obviously near and dear to my heart as the Director of People and Culture here at HD Mutual. So something that I'm hearing a lot from staff is really just kind of change fatigue and uncertainty. I think the economic and political environments, even if we're not in a business that's directly impacted by some of those things, everybody is just getting tired of seeing bad news in the news, of having uncertainty kind of be the predominant characteristic that's impacting all of our lives. And I think that that's trickling into how people are showing up at work.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I've heard that in my network as well. Maria, how about you? What are you hearing or seeing with the folks that you interact with?
Yeah, no, firstly, I'd like to say thank you for having me. Just really agreeing with Kusta. It's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. But internally, we are hearing from employees that they just want to be informed and be in the loop and stay connected. Really, I think it's even if it's bad news or good news or whatever that looks like, but just being transparent with them and providing them with as much information as you possibly can.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and certainly that's part of our high trust leader behaviors is that communication piece. So thank you very much for sharing that. So now let's talk about what your organizations are actually doing when it comes to appreciation, recognition. I like to look at appreciation as like there's a spectrum, right? There's the appreciation, there's sort of the everyday thank you, which came up in our poll, right? That sort of instant thank you from a leader. And then there's the recognition piece, which may be more tied to an outcome. There might be some sort of financial incentive or some other type of recognition. So Kusta, I'll start with you. Do you want to just explain to us some of the programs that currently exist in your organization? And also, so we had a conversation yesterday. So I'm just wondering if you can share some of the learnings that you've had as you have implemented some reward and recognition programs. So
Absolutely. Thanks, Anne. And just to give folks on the call a little bit more background into how we are an authority on this subject and why I'm here is that we are 5 years running Great Place to Work certified. Really super proud that this past summer we received a 99% approval rating on our Great Place to Work survey. And our managerial index score particularly is incredibly high. So I think given that we have such a strong culture and really good leadership team here, we've been able to really build out a strong culture of recognition. And that culture has evolved over time, and you can start really small. And I think the takeaways that I want to have people on the call take away from this is that good leadership programs don't have to be complicated and they don't have to be very expensive. A good recognition program, in my view, is genuine, it's visible, it's specific, and it's easy for people to participate in. And the primary mode of recognition for us at HD Mutual is actually a peer recognition program that's really successful here. We have about between 70 and 90% of our staff participate in our peer recognition program on an annual basis. And so I have a dashboard that I can pull that shows, for example, we have 495 recognitions sent out for this year already. Our staff is about 95. So it's a pretty big number. So that peer recognition program revolves around just being able to shout out your peers for anything. I think the idea is having a really low bar for criteria, not being too stringent on it has to be this type of thing or that type of thing. If you're really trying to build a culture of recognition, it's really just about trying to get people to buy in and be enthusiastic about thanking each other, even if it's for things that you think, it's not really worth the time. If you celebrate those small things and make a really big deal of it, even from the beginning, the program started with a really simple email form, send an email to, and then we had a couple people that were administering the program, and they would basically go over and give the person a little thank you, and they would get entered into a draw. So very low lift. It only takes a couple people to administer that. You're using an email server. And, our annual budget was something like $500. And that's where we started, and we embedded it into all staff meetings. We're doing shout outs, and we're having kind of the team recognize these are the different things that people are shouting out their peers for, so that there's building some awareness of nothing's too small. You can shout out for holding a door. It doesn't have to be a big grand gesture. Over time, we've evolved that to include one important distinction we made was having the ballot entry for the gift card draw. So we'll do a gift card draw once a month, and the sender and the receiver of our peer-to-peer recognition program get entered into that draw. And that was just a level up to be able to promote and encourage this recognition behavior across our team. And we also have added that the direct leader or their manager will get CC'd on the email so that there's an awareness. So it's not just one person that's kind of silently collecting all these accolades, but nobody really knows about it. Make sure that it's visible to their leader so that they're able to get properly recognized for that. So I would say, the peer recognition program has really been the cornerstone of our of our program here at HD. And even though the poll mentioned that peer-to-peer recognition is the least important, I do think that it's the way that you build it as a culture.
Yes.
Because we're dealing with our peers so much, like the average individual contributor is having dozens of interactions per day with their peers, but maybe one touch point a week with their leader, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, to complement that, we do have a spot bonus program that's tied to our values, that's more kind of top-down, leadership-driven, that's based on either accomplishment or demonstration of one of our core values. And those are typically, again, small amounts that are really just given as a thank you for extra effort that aligns with our company values. So those are
Nice.
two streams of our recognition program at HD.
Yeah, so many things I could pick up on there. It's the peer-to-peer, like you just said. So we work a lot with our peers. We don't necessarily, our leaders don't necessarily see what we're doing day to day, right? So that can be really helpful for leaders to see those recognitions for the people who report to them and understand more about the impact that they're having, right? And those results. Also, you mentioned, tracking usage, right? There's nothing worse than launching a program and then not being able to give any sort of data on is it getting what we want or not. Or one of my favorite expressions is what gets recognized gets repeated.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned, it's the recognition is for the person who is recognized, but also the person who did the recognizing, because that's the behavior that you want to see as well, that people are participating in it, right? And really, I'm just going to use the expression like moments that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are those moments that matter, and then how do we sort of pick up on those and recognize people for those moments? So thank you very much for sharing that. Maria, tell us about what goes on at Southwire when it comes to recognition.
Oh yeah, I mean, at Southwire, we believe like the people are the power behind what we do, and there's so many different things that we do that employees can choose. So, for example, I would say one thing that we do really well is create opportunities for people to connect and contribute beyond their day-to-day roles. So whether it's like employee resource groups that support networking or professional development or initiatives, like we have initiative called Project Gift that brings team members together from all across different communities to give back to the community. So those experiences like really help people feel valued. They make people feel connected. And I think building on what Kusta said, I think that might also be one of our main reasons. We're also 5 years, a great place to work, recognized, Southwire Canada, and really, really proud of that. And it's because that our employees have these opportunities that are beyond their, obviously the day-to-day work is important, but then also that feeling of belonging and connecting and that, that leverage of like giving back to that community and having that support from your company that yes, of course, like, it's an opportunity cost. Sure, there's a productivity loss for that day, but then you're using that time to give back to the community, volunteering at, places that you deeply care about, that really sprouts your passion again. And then you come back to work as a newly renewed person where you're like, you know what, my work here is about something that I'm so deeply passionate about that makes me want to do better at my work. So, it's just a reminder that employee appreciation just goes about, it's just not about like, it is about recognizing achievements, but it's more about creating the culture where people feel like they belong and they know their contributions matter.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. And I jotted down. So when you think about recognition, sometimes in organizations we get caught up in it's it's a lunch, it's a statue, it's a whatever, like there's a financial bonus or something. But when you think about recognition, I would encourage everybody to think really broadly. And like both of you have talked about, it could be a learning opportunity for somebody. It could be giving back to the community. And we're going to talk in a minute about how do you figure out what's important to people. But don't just think about recognition in terms of like some kind of bonus, financial incentive, or something like that. There are so many ways that you can bring recognition into your organization. So I am going to talk about leadership because we talked about, great starts with leaders. And we've already recognized that, leaders don't necessarily see what's going on with their people, right? Like they could be, especially if you're in an organization with field employees, like salespeople, like people who are not visible to you on a regular basis. So Maria, I'll start with you. And the question is, how can leaders who are busy, stretched thin, not physically in the same space as people, how can they be consistent in how they recognize the people that work for them, report to them?
No, great question. And we think of it like in our daily lives. So like for me, in my case, my example is that nowadays we're working managers. So it's not like you're only managing people, right? You're managing people, but then you also have your tasks that you have to complete by, a certain time or end of day. So it's hard to do. And when you use that phrase stretch thin, it is difficult, but what helps make it easy is that you have to make appreciation part of your existing routines. You just make it a habit. You just remember to take 60 seconds, be it like sort of a team meeting or like even a one-on-one meeting. Just it doesn't take time to just, recognize a contribution. Send a quick note after something was successful, like a project or, anything. Just acknowledge someone who stepped up to help others. I think it's, consistency matters more than skill in this case. So.
And Kusta, how about you?
Yeah. I think that is definitely a big concern. The peer-to-peer recognition program that I described isn't limited to just individual contributors. So we do have part of our leadership team that participate in that regularly. The front end form for employees that was built by our team takes about 3 seconds to submit a recognition. So it's a very fast and easy process that leaders can leverage as well, and they often do. But I think that, giving your time to your direct reports is one of the best ways that you can show that you care and value their contributions. Just being very attentive in a one-on-one, having regular one-on-ones and keeping them, even if you have competing priorities. Providing some flexibility, your team and you know what's going on in their personal lives. If you know they have a really hectic weekend and you have the flexibility and autonomy on your team to just, reach out to them and say, hey, I know that things are really crazy for you this weekend. Log off at 3, we'll make up the time some other time. If you can have that flexibility and just give that person that grace and flexibility around when they're working that accommodates and flexes with their life, that really shows genuine care, and it recognizes the whole human being behind the work that they're doing for you.
Love that. Yeah.
I love the sense of community that Maria really focused on. I think that's also a really big factor of our particular culture of recognition here. We do have a volunteer day that's available to our staff to use, and often our leaders take it upon themselves to organize a group volunteer activity. So we've supported different charitable organizations locally through a shared volunteer day. And we also have what's called our charitable donation program. So we actually allow staff to direct $100 of our funds to the charity, the registered charity of their choice. And then we keep people apprised of what are the different organizations that we've supported. So in that way, people are able to see that's the cause that I care about, that my company is now supporting on my behalf.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I really liked what you said about, recognizing people as individuals. Right. And, we care about what you care about. Maria talked about being intentional, put it in your calendar. There's nothing wrong with reminding yourself to, think about all of the great things that your team is doing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nobody expects you to remember everything. And nice segue actually into my next question, which is, how do you learn what types of appreciation employees value instead of assuming what they want? And one is I've been in HR for a long time, and it used to be like everybody got the same thing at the holiday time. Everybody's getting the same thing, but then you kind of slowly realize that that doesn't work. That isn't great place to work for all, right? That's great place to work for the majority. So, Kusta, I'll start with you. How do you learn what types of appreciation employees value?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and it's often overlooked, especially by well-intended leaders, because we
Yeah.
think, oh, this, we assume everyone's going to love this. We'll shout out their achievement and their project work at our next town hall meeting, and then we do it, and there's like this wicked backlash that we don't anticipate, because people don't all like the same things. Spoiler alert, humans are complex, and we are all different. We have 5 generations in the workforce right now. Everybody's heard that. So everybody does want something different. I have learned 2 ways to do this is through their leaders. Leaders tend to know their people best. And so getting down to the team lead or frontline leadership level and asking, "Oh, how does your team want to be recognized for this thing you're working on?" Going to the individuals themselves. And I have found some really great resources that I can share with the audience through what's called the Workplace Strategies for Mental Health. It's a Canada Life platform that provides free resources. And one of those is called a recognition preference form. And I've leveraged that on my team in order for individuals to sit down with their leaders and actually go through, how do I prefer to be recognized? And then have the leader be able to know from an informed place and not just assume or guess at what that person wants.
Nice, nice. And how about you, Maria, at Southwire? How do you learn? How do your leaders learn what types of appreciation people want?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to echo what Kusta said. The easiest way is to just ask them. Some people, and you would like what? Because some people enjoy public recognition while others
Hmm.
are more private. Like, they'd rather have a one-on-one conversation with you. Some people want development opportunities, or additional responsibility. So one thing that really helps us is, having those regular check-ins, employee surveys, and then we also do like listening sessions, like Kusa said. So we have roundtable with our leaderships where you also have like skip level meetings. So then, my employee is having meeting with like my manager, even his manager. So like senior leadership gets involved. And these are just open sessions for you to give
Mm,
your feedback on what we are doing, how can we do things better. And these sessions really help leaders better understand what resonates with their team. So those are
nice.
just some of the things that we do. But yeah, it really comes
Yeah.
down to just asking people.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have a couple of clients that we work with, and it's part of their onboarding, right? Like it's part of asking the question, like getting to know people. How do you like to be recognized? In like, and you just said in public or in private? Because yeah, Kusti, you mentioned, shouting somebody out at an all company meeting, and if that person like just they might die. Like they don't want to be publicly. They want the recognition. This is the thing, right? Want the recognition, but don't necessarily want it in public, right? So that's all about getting to know people. So really, really appreciate you saying that. The other thing I will share just from my background too is when you're thinking about if it is a monetary reward or a gift card or something, we're in Ontario. I think it's CRA, but it's a taxable benefit. We launched a program, and the winner of this program got a $1,000 Visa card and got added to their income. And come payday, they were shocked because of the tax deducted from that gift. So, like you said, Kusta, I think it was very well intended to have this reward, but didn't have the impact that we hoped. So those are some of the things to keep in mind as well, right? With anything where there is some sort of financial reward, that it would be a taxable benefit. Any payroll people watching this maybe appreciate me calling that out. I don't know, because I've certainly had my hand slapped before. So let's do another poll. This one, Merv, I'll just give you a second to pull it up. And this poll for our participants is, what most often gets in the way of employee appreciation feeling authentic? So let's pull that up here. So this is what most often gets in the way of employee appreciation feeling authentic. So it's too generic or scripted. Leaders are too busy or stretched thin. We talked about that. Appreciation is inconsistent across teams. Employees are recognized in ways that they don't actually value. We talked a little bit about that. And it feels like an HR program rather than part of the culture. So what do you think, or what in your organization most often gets in the way of the employee appreciation feeling authentic? So let's give everyone about 30 seconds to respond to that. Again, you can only pick one. There may be a few that resonate, but let's just get everybody picking one. Okay, another 10 seconds. Okay, Merv, if I can just get you to close that, that would be great. And we'll see what everybody thinks. Okay, so it's pretty close here. So it feels generic or scripted, followed by, it feels just like an HR program rather than part of the culture. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Employees are recognized in ways that they don't actually value. So, we've talked about that. Leaders are too busy or stretched thin, and appreciation is inconsistent across teams. So a couple things I want to talk about here. And Maria, I believe you talked about consistency as well. Certainly very important in organizations. And both of you, as Great Place to Work clients, know that when you look at your results, there is this middle ground where folks are having that inconsistent experience where they don't know, or they're not sure. So for organizations, if you're going to be launching any kind of recognition program, ensure that all leaders are participating. And there's actually a question. This is actually a nice segue. There's a question where an individual on our call is saying, what would you recommend for an organization where a leader is not responsive? So they want to share some feedback, but somebody's not responding. So how do we ensure that all leaders are participating? Maria, I'll start with you.
That is a great question. I mean, I would just like try and reach out. You're saying like, is it your direct manager who's not responsive, or just other leaders are not responsive?
It was just a leader not being responsive. They had sent several emails noting great behavior from a colleague, and nothing happened. So any thoughts there on getting some response?
That is a bit difficult, but I would just get in touch with other team members or get in touch with other managers personally, and just find out, like, is there a reason that they're not responsive? Are they, stressed thin, or like what exactly happened there? And then, figure like to me, it all comes down to, from my example of working in the industry, it's like it's all teamwork, and it's all professional, not personal. So if somebody is being absent-minded in some ways, is there something happening in their personal life? Maybe talk to someone that you trust, another leader that you have your trust in, and talk to them and feel like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Can you help me? Can you give me some ideas on, like, how we can get this leader to respond? Or if this leader is not responding, how can we get this program moving or things running? So those are some of the examples I've personally, that's how I've dealt with certain situations in my life.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, like, and as somebody put in the chat, like, assume noble intent, but then, kind of see what you can do. Another question, I'll just go to it now. This individual has a manager who says that thanking team members or recognizing efforts feels insincere, but the team says that it's important, right? And so, some leaders might say, well, we pay people, right? That's how, yeah. So Maria and Kusta are both nodding, and people probably on the call are. Yes, absolutely. We should be compensating people for the work that they do. But like I said, what gets recognized gets repeated, right? So if we are looking for people to demonstrate certain behaviors or get specific outcomes, if we recognize the behavior, that is where is the power in saying, thank you. Hey, I see you. I see the work that you're doing. I see how hard you're working. I see the impact that you're having on our customers, right? And that's where I go back to that great place to work effect, right? Great starts with leadership, high trust leader behavior of thinking, and then ultimately the impact on performance. So having the conversation with that leader about, it's not an HR program, right? We're not just saying, oh, you need to thank people. We're saying that there's a direct outcome of people feeling appreciated in terms of our performance as an organization. So that would be sort of my thoughts there. Now, I did want to ask about people who work in different locations. So Maria, I'm not sure, do you have like field employees that work with you, like, or that are not? So, and Kusta, are your folks hybrid? Or or
Yeah, we're a hybrid workplace,
yeah.
and actually had we amalgamated 2 years ago. So we had two different office locations for about 18 months before we
Mhm.
consolidated down to one office location. So we are a fully hybrid workplace operating until recently in two different locations.
And so how do you handle recognition when again we're not people don't see
Mhm.
each other maybe because when we all if we worked in organizations where everybody was together, you would see those things. So how do you coach leaders? How do you handle that when people aren't necessarily in the same physical space?
For us, that was part of evolving that peer recognition program, was to
Okay.
make sure that the form and way to participate was super easy and embedded in all the places. It's a single link that we put as a button or a hyperlink in all the different platforms that people would be working in, for
Hmm.
example, so that it's very accessible no matter what program or software they're using. And secondarily, we moved because of the hybrid nature. We really just found that we had done quarterly meetings about around this Bravo recognition program.
Hmm.
And we found that it was too long. People's attention spans are shorter. The hybrid work, there's more of a recency bias where things kind of get forgotten much more quickly. And so we
Hmm.
actually shifted this year to a monthly um, Bravo meeting on
Hmm.
Teams. It's a 10-minute meeting in people's
Okay.
calendar.
Okay, nice.
And so that connects people on a hybrid basis.
Nice. And so the iteration that you were talking about, right? Like evolving things as you go. And Maria, how about your workforce? Explain a little bit about where they are.
Yeah, I mean, as just to go back to your other point, like
Sure.
authentic appreciation, when we're talking about that, like how do you know if it's authentic?
Hmm.
Appreciation, you can't look at it as just like a standalone program that we can just introduce and like this is what we're gonna do. As you talked about earlier, I feel like it has to be woven into your culture rather than programs. So like I said, like at Southwire, we do a great job. We have like employee resource groups. There's employee-led community opportunities, network opportunities. We also have, there's events that we do, and like you mentioned, we have field services employees
Okay.
that are
Okay.
on the field that are not
Hmm.
able to come all the time, right? So, but we try and be creative on, how can we still collaborate together. So certain things that we've done at our sites are like, having virtual events or like reaching out to the team members before we have an in-person event, making sure what time works for them, or even if they can just come and join us for lunch, and then we give them
Hmm.
a window, just drop in, come say hi. Making sure if they're not able to make meetings, like if we can't give them virtual shout outs, then like you just give them a call and like you recognize them and you thank them. So it is a bit tricky, but I think it's doable. If you put your
Yeah.
mind to it, it can certainly work.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the learnings I had too was around, sales employees, field employees, just people who aren't together, and or if you have a head office, and it seems like head office is always having a barbecue or the whatever that is. It's like recognizing that other people don't have that opportunity. So that's something that I did in my past was making sure that people in the field had a gift card to go for lunch or again, this was a while ago. So now it'd be an Uber, right? Like an Uber card or something. But just recognizing that, you know what, we appreciate you. We know that you can't actually join us at this event, but we want you to have a good experience as well. Um, so we've got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to just ask both of you as we're wrapping up, if there's one thing that you would like participants to take away today about the importance of appreciation, how you can do it, sort of low budget, what would be your advice to them? So Kusta, I'll start with you.
I think that you start somewhere. My best advice, even if it feels daunting, just start small and you can build on anything that you're building. So if you don't have anything in place right now, start with something really simple. Make sure that you have one or two champions that can start to drive it, and you'll be able to see that change over time. It might take a while, but it is hard to get employee loyalty in this hybrid work world. And
Mm.
this is one way that you can really drive retention and employee loyalty because you're building deeper relationships by engaging staff in this way. So it's absolutely worth the effort, and just start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm just going to jump on that when you talked about champions. With any HR program, it's finding those people who you know can be advocates or the voice of employees, right? Maybe they're the people who might be a little bit suspect about it, right? Like engaging people from different parts of the business to say, hey, what do you think? How can you help us? Because we talked about things being an HR program, and it's taking it out of HR. Like HR might steward something, HR might come up with the overarching plan, but that implementation and that advocacy, asking employees to help you with that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kusta. That's awesome. And Maria, how about you? What would you like our participants to take away today?
If it was one thing, I would just say, like we talked about in this entire webinar, employee appreciation isn't about spending money. It's really about helping people feel seen, valued, and connected to a bigger purpose. People remember how they're treated, and like whether their contributions are valued. So, in closing, that's what I want to say. Recognition doesn't have to be expensive or elaborate. Like the most meaningful appreciation is often just taking time to let someone know that their work mattered and saying thank you.
Absolutely. I'm just going to check our questions. We've answered both of those live. I don't know if anybody else has a question they want to sneak in for our panelists before we go. This has been a great conversation. And, we started off talking about sort of thanking and recognition, but I really like how you both have tied this up into this is part of who you are as an organization, how you treat people, whether people want to stay with the organization because they see that it is somewhere that values the work that they do. So yeah, it doesn't have to be grand gestures. It's that thank you. I see you. I see what you're doing. We appreciate it. And yeah, I think just let me double check the questions. But I think we are wrapping up. Anything that either of you didn't share that you wanted to? And I tend to talk too much. Or did you cover everything?
I think so, yeah.
Good, good. All right.
Thank you.
Good. Well, again, I want to thank you both so much for being here today, for your insights. I believe Merv put your LinkedIn bios in the chat. If not, please search out Maria and Kusta. They've got some great tips for you. Keep it small, keep it simple, be intentional. Lots of different ways we can talk about recognition. But again, want to thank you both so much for being here today. Come and check us out back in September. We'll have another high trust leader behavior that we want to share. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
You.
Bye.